Hello and welcome to Univah.
Let's create your first religion effect in Univah. What do you say? We can start with object distribution. If you're coming from the Maya Mesh network or from Cinema 4D, in Maya, I believe this is the equivalent of mesh distribution. So if you go to the Maya Mesh network, click on mesh distribution, you should be able to distribute any mesh onto another mesh. I believe it works in a similar way in Cinema 4D. In Univah, what Maya calls a mesh distribution, we call it object distribution. So just go to the religion tab, click on object distribution, and you'll now be able to pick a mesh. And when you select the mesh, in this instance, we are taking these flowers, we're clicking on the flower mesh, and we're going to do an object distribution onto another mesh. And the other mesh is this wonderful tree trunk. So it's really easy. All you have to do is pick a mesh and then click on the mesh you want to attach it to, and it will now distribute onto that mesh. That is your first religion effect. And it's super cool because once you have it distributed onto another mesh, you can then hide the original mesh and do whatever you want with the distribution. So that's very cool. So right now, what we're doing is I'm going to actually just change the color of this lens, and I'm going to add a roughness map to the lens so that there is a little bit of reflection. Okay. And honestly, I only added this guy here for scale so that you could see, in reference how big this tree is. Alrighty. Okay, so as you know, with Univah, because we're able to switch rendering styles with one click, we just went from Sketch to PBR, and then from PBR right back to Sketch with one click. And here's what's amazing about this compared to what you can do with AI. So as you know, AI is trying to do a lot of what we do, but they're falling short in a lot of ways. Here's the difference between what Univah does with render style switching and what AI does, and why a lot of legacy DCCs still can't do this. When we switch rendering styles, notice that the scene stays the same. Nothing changes, okay? And whereas with AI, you're not switching a rendering style, you're regenerating the entire scene all over again in a different rendering style, which means a lot of things might change. So what I've done here right now is I am hiding the tree trunk and I'm only showing the religion effect, which is super cool. Also, you'll notice that I'm able to edit the shadow resolution in real time just by dragging these sliders. This is going to be super helpful because we understand that not everyone has a RTX 5090 or RTX 4060. So those of you that might be working on an older GPU, like let's say a GTX 1050 or an older GPU, you might have to lower the shadow resolution while working in real time just to keep the frame rates high, depending on how complex your scene is and how much geometry you have in the scene. So being able to change the shadow resolution, not for all shadows, but for every single light independently, that's going to be such a drastic performance boost for you as your scenes become more complex. Obviously, when you're working on a very simple scene that doesn't have too much geometry, you're not really going to have to worry about shadow quality. However, as you know, whenever you're working with foliage, you know what foliage does to your rendering. So anytime you're dealing with trees, a lot of grass, which in this case, as you can see, we have a lot of foliage, and to keep it at high FPS, the software has to be optimized. But also on the end user side, you as the end user has to also know how to make the scene work as best it can in real time for you, depending on your computer specs. Okay. So as you know, Univah is optimized to run on even on GTX 1050 and older. Okay. And we've proven that in a lot of our videos. You guys have seen that you can make religion effects even on an integrated shared GPU. So even if you don't have a dedicated GPU, you'll be able to create this scene. Okay. All right. So this is really awesome. Right now, we're showing just the religion effect. And you want to know what's really great about this is that it's dynamic. So we can move the religion effect independently of the tree trunk. So that's really cool. So nothing is necessarily stuck together. You can add so many different distributions to this and move them each individually or all together. So that's really great. I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. Okay, perfect. So in this example, I've added a simple cube primitive. And as you can see, using the object distribution, I have distributed the cube onto the tree trunk. And this is where you really begin to see that Univah is modular and non-destructive. And if you don't know what those words mean, because you've heard it a lot, but a lot of people don't actually know what that means. Okay, that's programming language for basically the software is stackable. You can stack effects on top of other effects. And if you remove one effect, it doesn't destroy the original or the other effects. Basically, it means everything is independent of each other. So that's what it means to be modular and non destructive. So as you can see, I've distributed a cube onto the tree trunk, but the tree trunk initially already had a distribution effect applied to it. It had these flowers. But because Univah is modular, meaning I can stack effects on top of other effects, I now have these cubes on top of the flowers effect. So now you can make really interesting effects just by stacking more and more effects. You can stack as many effects as you want, and you can move them and edit each effect individually. That's what makes it non destructive. And because the tree trunk itself remains untouched, we can delete all of these effects and it will not destroy the tree trunk. So that's what it means to be non destructive. Okay? All right. So right now I'm going to edit this cube effect. And you can see that now I'm going to do even more distribution effects. I'm going to now add a sphere. And with this sphere, I'm going to add another object distribution on top of the cube effect, which is on top of the flowers effect. So I'm going to have essentially three different effects applied to this tree trunk at the same time. So we're going to have three religion effects applied to the tree trunk at the same time. And it's all modular and completely non-destructive. That's the power of religion VFX. So yeah, it's really cool. I'm just playing around with the sphere distribution just to show you some of the other cool effects that you can do. All right. And so now we are ready to distribute this sphere onto the tree trunk. So we click on the sphere, we click pick mesh. It's going to say picking mesh, and then just click on the tree trunk. And now it's going to show you in the UI that the sphere is connected to the tree trunk. Make sure you click on the sphere, click pick mesh, click the tree trunk, and there you go. Okay. So now when we click on the sphere, we can edit. Yeah, that's very helpful. Imagine having to go and edit each one by one. That would be painful. So we've made Univah in such a way that once it's distributed, we can edit all of these at the same time just by using those parameters that you saw in the attribute editor. So this is just a really cool example of how you can stack effects. You don't have to have just one effect. You can have multiple religion effects going at the same time on one object, okay? So if you're a creative person, which I know most of you are, if you're attracted to this software, it's because you're a creative person. You're going to be able to make very cool effects, okay? All right. All right. Shall we continue? Let's continue. So you've seen us use the procedure parameters in the attribute editor. Now let's go over how to light your effect. Once you've created a religion effect, the next thing now would be to light it. I've also gone ahead and just increased that shadow quality for now for the directional light only, just so we can get some nice crisp shadows. And by playing with the sun direction X and Y, which is pretty much all you can do for a directional light, because the directional light simulates the sun, so we can't move the light position, but we can change the light direction. And this is a really great practice. I really recommend before you settle on lighting the scene, just play with the lights a little bit just to see how different elements of your scene react to light. So, right now, we're lighting foliage, we're lighting this human body, and that's really the main reason I add a human being to the scene. I always add a human being to the scene, one for scale, and two for the lights. There we go. Sometimes when lighting different types of objects, like human skin versus lighting grass, this is where you're really going to need light linking, which is a professional way to light your scenes in Maya. And we also have it in Univah Pro. So you're going to notice a lot of times that light intensity that may work on one object might be too intense on another object. And in such cases, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to tell the software which lights should affect which objects. So if you have a very bright directional light and it looks amazing on foliage, but you notice that it looks washed out on human skin, then you're going to have to tell the software to let the directional light only affect the foliage, but to not affect the human skin. And you do that using light linking, which we have in Univah Pro and the Univah Lite. So that's going to be very, very useful. Gives you professional control over lighting. So essentially, we can light the human skin with a lesser light, a less bright light, and then we can light the foliage with a harsher light. Okay, great. So we've talked about how to create a religion effect. We've gone over how to light that effect. We've talked about what it means to be modular and non destructive. We've also talked about the difference between using the Univah Film Engine and using generative AI. And without any hype, we've shown very clearly in the viewport in real time how the Univah Film Engine is actually faster than generative AI. And so now, given all of what you've seen yourself and what you're going to be able to do, if you would like to try the Univah Film Engine, you can go to our website, which is smsoftwarecompany.com, download the free trial on the Univah Lite page, and you can begin creating your first religion effect today. I encourage you to share whatever you create with us. So you can tweet us, you can post it on LinkedIn, on Reddit, whatever you create using our software, you can share with us. All right. So let's move on now to creating what Maya would call a play blast. So making the effect is great, but making a video of the effect is even better. But before we get into that, what I'm doing now is I'm showing you that these effects are independent of whatever they were distributed onto. So as you can see, when I clicked the tree trunk and I moved it, it moved independently of the foliage. And when I clicked on the foliage now attached or reattached to that tree trunk. So that's really cool because as you can see, what this allows us to do is we can either move the effect dynamically with the tree trunk, or we can set it up in such a way that each effect can be moved and manipulated independently. So you can always manipulate the effects independently, but when you move the tree trunk, you can decide if it all moves together or if you can move them independently. So that's a very cool feature there. Okay, so as you can see right now, we have the tree trunk, we have the foliage following the tree trunk, but the other effects that we made using the sphere primitive and the cube primitive have remained there. Okay, so now we're going to create the most beautiful play blast you've ever seen. So in Maya, you can create something called a play blast. The problem, though, with the Maya play blast is that it's very low quality. And why is it low quality? It's low quality because the Maya viewport is low quality. And the play blast can only show what the viewport is capable of doing. The Univah viewport, however, was designed because it's a higher quality modern viewport. It was designed with incredible technology so that when you do a play blast in Univah, you're seeing the final quality directly in the viewport, and that's exactly what you're going to get in the final video. So right now, as you can see, we have this little record button, which is showing there at the bottom, and it's recording everything that we're doing right now. Yes. So that includes the style changes. This is very unique because there is no software that exists. There is no legacy DCC. Unreal Engine doesn't do this. There is no software, real time or offline, that does what we're showing. So I can switch rendering styles in real time. You already know that, but I can record it. So my play blast, when I send this over to a client, is going to have different rendering styles being switched in real time without me having to regenerate another video, without me having to pay for prompts to regenerate a new video, without me having to pay for credits to regenerate a new video in a different rendering style. So that's what you're going to have to do if you use AI. If you use AI, you're going to have to pay for prompts to regenerate the same video in a different rendering style. Here, it's one click. It's faster, and there's no regeneration. So it's by far a much more superior workflow, not just because we're saying that, but because we just showed you. So that's the reason why anyone who sees this tool, they're so excited to try it, because it does seem like it's too good to be true until you actually try it and you realize you're able to do a lot of what AI cannot do. And quite frankly, it will never be able to do what we're doing. So when you see what we're able to achieve, if you doubt it, download the free trial and try it for yourself. But this is now an MP4 video. We just made this in real time. And as you can see, we're switching from Sketch to PBR and then back to Sketch. Every single light change that we made is instant. Do it in Univah. Everything, real time.